Hello, squirrels. I got the hot, cold, hot, cold. This is that blanket I picked up from the Dollar Tree Plus aisle. Oh, Lordy, is it soft. It feels so good. Okay, I don't have the book up yet. So hang tight. Hold fast, like Mama used to say. Hold fast. Hold fast. And pray I can stay awake. Oh, that's when I'm praying. Of course, I know by the time you see it and you're praying, you can just pray that I stay awake for the next time. For every time. Because I will already have done it by then. Come on, you be slow. We are 69% through the book. 450 from Paddington, or what Mrs. McGillicuddy saw. Let's see where we are. Still coming. It's a coming. Come on, come on. Here we go. Okay, we're on part 2 of whatever chapter you'll see in the title. At Rutherford Hall, there had been a gathering of the Crackenthorpe family. Harold and Alfred had come down from London, and very soon voices were raised. Oh, it just went away. Darn installation message. Stop. And tempers were running high. On her own initiative, Lucy mixed cocktails in a jug with ice, then took them towards the library. The voices sounded clearly in the hall and indicated that a good deal of acrimony was being directed towards Emma. Entirely your fault, Emma, Harold's bass voice rang out angrily. How you could be so short-sighted and foolish beats me. If you hadn't taken that letter to Scotland Yard and started all this, Harold's high-pitched voice said, you must have been out of your senses. Now don't bully her, said Cedric. What's done is done. Much more fishy if they'd identified the woman as the missing Martine, and we'd all kept mum about having heard from her. It's all very well for you, Cedric, said Harold angrily. You were out of the country on the 20th, which seems to be the day they're inquiring about. But it's very embarrassing for Alfred and myself. Fortunately, I can remember where I was that afternoon and what I was doing. I bet you can, said Alfred. If you'd arranged a murder, Harold, you'd arranged your alibi very carefully, I'm sure. I gather you're not so fortunate, said Harold coldly. That depends, said Alfred. Anything's better than presenting a cast-iron alibi to the police if it isn't really cast iron. They're so clever at breaking these things down. If you're insinuating that I killed the woman, oh, do stop it, all of you, cried Emma. Of course none of you killed the woman. And just for your information, I wasn't out of England on the 20th, said Cedric, and the police are wise to it, so we're all under suspicion. If it hadn't been for Emma... Oh, don't begin again, Harold, cried Emma. Dr. Quimper came out of the study where he had been closeted with old Mr. Crackenthorpe. His eye fell on the jug in Lucy's hand. What's this, a celebration? More in the nature of oil on troubled water. They're at it, hammer and tongs in there. Recriminations? Mostly abusing Emma. Dr. Quimper's eyebrows rose. Indeed. He took the jug from Lucy's hand, opened the library door, and went in. Good evening. Ah, Dr. Quimper, I should like a word with you. It was Harold's voice. raised and irritable. I should like to know what you meant by interfering in a private and family matter and telling my sister to go to Scotland Yard about it. Dr. Quimper said calmly, Miss Crackenthorpe asked my advice. I gave it to her. In my opinion, she did perfectly right. You dare to say, girl! It was old Mr. Crackenthorpe's familiar salutation. He was peering out of the study door just behind Lucy. Lucy turned rather reluctantly. Yes, Mr. Crackenthorpe? What are you giving us for dinner tonight? I want curry. You make a very good curry. It's been ages since we've had curry. He's trying to change the subject. The boys don't care much for curry, you see. The boys. What do the boys matter? I'm the one who matters. And anyway, the boys have gone. Good riddance. I want a nice hot curry, do you hear? All right, Mr. Crackenthorpe, you shall have it. That's right. You're a good girl, Lucy. You look after me and I'll look after you. Lucy went back to the kitchen, abandoning the fricassee of chicken which she had planned. She began to assemble the preparations for curry. The front door banged, and from the window she saw Dr. Quimper stride angrily from the house to his car and drive away. Lucy sighed. She missed the boys, and in a way she missed Brian, too. Oh, well, she sat down and began to peel mushrooms. At any rate, she'd given the family a rattling good dinner. Rattling. Feed the brutes. In part 3. It was 3 a.m. when Dr. Quimper drove his car into the garage, closed the doors, and came in, pulling the front door behind him rather wearily. Well, Mrs. Josh Simpkins had a fine, healthy pair of twins to add to her present family of 8. Mr. Simpkins had expressed no elation over the arrival. Twins, he had said gloomily. What's the good of they? Quads now, they're good for something. All sorts of things you get sent. And the press comes around and there's pictures in the paper, and they do say Her Majesty sends you a telegram. But what's twins except 2 mouths to feed instead of 1? Sorry, my brother. Hey, Buck.
Hey, what's happening, Krieger?
Nothing much.
Nothing else?
Mm-mm.
Listen, I'm getting ready to go to Capriano's.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
No, I went to Yosti's today and picked up some hot dogs, so I'm good.
You alright?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought I'd check.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Love ya.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Love him. Sorry about that. Where was I? Never been twins in our family, nor in Mrs. either. Don't seem fair somehow. Dr. Quimper walked upstairs to his bedroom and started throwing off his clothes. He glanced at his watch. 5 minutes past 3. It had proved an unexpectedly tricky business bringing those twins into the world, but all had gone well. He yawned. He was tired, very tired. He looked appreciatively at his bed. Then the phone rang. Dr. Quimper swore and picked up the receiver. Dr. Quimper? Speaking. This is Lucy Owlsbarrow from Rutherford Hall. I think you'd better come over. Everybody seems to have taken ill. Taken ill? How? What symptoms? Lucy detailed them. I'll be over straight away. In the meantime, he gave her sharp instructions. Then he quickly resumed his clothes, flung a few extra things into his emergency bag, and hurried down to his car. Part 4. It was some 3 hours later when the doctor and Lucy, both of them somewhat exhausted, sat down by the fire. No, by the kitchen table. How do you get fire out of that? To drink large cups of black coffee. Ha! Dr. Quimper drained his cup, set it down with a clatter on the saucer. I needed that. Now, Miss Owlsbury, let's get down to brass tacks. Lucy looked at him. The lines of fatigue showed clearly on his face, making him look older than his 44 years. The dark hair on his temples was flecked with gray, and there were lines under his eyes. As far as I can judge, said the doctor, they'll be all right now. But how come? That's what I want to know. Who cooked the dinner? I did, said Lucy. And what was it in detail? Mushroom soup, curry chicken and rice, syllabubs, a savory of chicken livers and bacon. Canapes Diane, said Dr. Quimper unexpectedly. Lucy smiled faintly. Yes, Canapes Diane. All right, let's go through it. Mushroom soup out of a tin, I suppose? Certainly not. I made it. You made it? Out of what? Half a pound of mushrooms, chicken stock, milk, a roux of butter and flour, and lemon juice. Ah, and one's supposed to say it must have been the mushrooms. It wasn't the mushrooms. I had some of the soup myself, and I'm quite all right. Yes, you're quite all right. I hadn't forgotten that. Lucy flushed. If you mean... I don't mean. You're a highly intelligent girl. You'd be groaning upstairs, too, if I'd meant what you thought I meant. Anyway, I know all about you. I've taken the trouble to find out. Why on earth did you do that? Dr. Quimper's lips were set in a grim line. Because I'm making it my business to find out about the people who come here and settle themselves in. You're a bona fide young woman who does this particular job for a livelihood, and you seem never to have had any contact with the Krakenthorpe family previous to coming here, so you're not a girlfriend of either Cedric, Harold, or Alfred. And helping... Hang on. Harold or Alfred. Helping them to do a bit of dirty work. Do you really think? I think quite a lot of things, said Quimper, but I have to be careful. That's the worst of being a doctor. Now let's get on. Curried chicken? Did you have some of that? No, when you've cooked a curry, you've dined off the smell, I find. I tasted it, of course. I had soup and some syllabub. How do you serve the syllabub? Or how did you? In individual glasses. Now then, how much of all this is cleared up? If you mean washing up, everything was washed up and put away, Dr. Quimper groaned. There's such a thing as being overzealous, he said. Yes, I can see that. As things have turned out, but there it is, I'm afraid. What do you still have? There's some of the curry left in a bowl in the larder. I was planning to use it as a basis for mulligatawny soup this evening. There's some mushroom soup left too, no syllabub and none of the savory. I'll take the curry and the soup. What about chutney? But, let's see. Did they have chutney with it? Yes, in one of those stone jars. I'll have some of that too. He rose. I'll go up and have a look at them. Have a look at them again. After that, can you hold the fort until morning? Keep an eye on all of them. I can have a nurse round with with full instructions by 8 o'clock. I wish you'd tell me straight out. Do you think it's food poisoning or, well, poisoning? I've told you already, doctors can't think. Doctors can't think. They have to be sure. If there's a positive result from these food specimens, I can go ahead. Otherwise, Lucy repeated. Dr. Quimper laid a hand on her shoulder. Look after two people in particular, he said. Look after Emma. I'm not going to have anything happen to Emma. There was emotion in his voice that could not be disguised. She's not even begun to live yet, he said, and you know people like Emma Crackenthorpe are the salt of the earth. Emma means a lot to me. I've never told her so, but I shall. Look after Emma. You bet I will, said Lucy. And look after the old man. I can't say that he's ever been my favorite patient, but he is my patient. And I'm damned if I'm going to let him be hustled out of the world because one or other of his unpleasant sons, or all three of them maybe, would want him out of the way so they can handle his money. He threw her a sudden quizzical glance. There, he said, I've opened my mouth too wide, but keep your eyes skinned. There's a good girl, and incidentally, keep your mouth shut. And then we're at part 5. But I must stop there. Sorry. So that was chapter 19. And sorry, I was trying to figure out where to put my bookmark. There we go. Alright, y'all have a good Friday night. See you in the morning over at Affordably Geeky. I forgot to remind everybody I'm alive today. Oh well. Hopefully y'all have got alarms set. Love you bunches. Be sweet, don't be ugly.